For thousands of years, humans believed the stars were just tiny lanterns dangling from a crystal ceiling, and the universe was a cozy bubble with us at its very center. It felt right. It felt obvious. And that feeling kept us wrong for millennia. My name is Elias, and this is Winds of Thought. There is something almost humbling about how consistently our own minds betray us. Not through ignorance, but through efficiency. The brain is not designed to find truth. It's designed to survive. It takes shortcuts. It fills in blanks. It tells us we're right long before we actually are. But here's the problem. The universe doesn't care about our shortcuts. In 2025, a mid-air collision over the Potomac made international headlines. For weeks, every near miss, every runway incursion became breaking news. The algorithms fed us fear, and suddenly, millions of people who had never worried about flying started white-knuckling the armrests. The actual data, pulled from aviation safety networks, showed no statistical increase in accidents. Flying remained statistically safer than driving to the grocery store. And yet, the fear was real. Why? Because the brain treats easy to remember as likely to happen. This is what psychologists call the availability heuristic. It's not a glitch, it's a feature. But it's a feature that lies to you. So if your brain lies for a living, how do you ever trust what you know? We love patterns. We evolved scanning tall grass for movement, reading faces for threat, listening to wind for the cough of a predator. Those ancient pattern detectors are why you can hear a song once and hum it back. Why you recognize a friend from 50 yards. Why you know, without thinking, that touching fire ends badly. The mind is a storyteller, not a mirror. But the same machinery that keeps you alive also keeps you trapped. Because once a story takes root, the brain protects it. We don't just prefer information that agrees with us. We defend it. We seek it out. We celebrate it. We call it common sense. And that's when the shortcut becomes a cage. Let's talk about the myth you probably believe right now. You've heard it before. Some people are visual learners. Others auditory, there's kinesthetic. Maybe you've even built your study habits around it. It feels true because we feel different when we look at a diagram versus when we listen to a lecture. But in 2008, a team of cognitive psychologists reviewed decades of research and found zero controlled evidence that tailoring instruction to a learning style improves outcomes. Zero. So why does this idea persist in 90% of teacher training programs? Confirmation bias. Teachers see a student light up during a group activity and think, they're a social learner. Administrators see improved engagement and attribute it to the method, not the novelty. The belief becomes self-sealing. We don't just resist new information, we actively filter for the old. Bias is not a flaw in the machine. It is the machine. And this isn't some abstract flaw in strangers. It's in you. Right now, you are, in this very moment, more likely to remember evidence that supports your political affiliation, your self-image, your worldview. You are more likely to trust a confident liar than a hesitant expert. You are more likely to believe something you've heard 10 times than something you've heard once, even if the first 9 times you knew it was false. So what do we do? If our own minds are wired against us, is clear thinking even possible? Yes, but not alone. Science is often misunderstood as a body of facts. Gravity is 9.8 meters per second squared. Water is HO. Dinosaurs had feathers. But that's not science. That's the output of science. The real engine is a set of tools designed specifically to outsmart the operator. Think of it as a lie detector you install after you already know you're a liar. Take the randomized controlled trial. Before the 1940s, doctors tested treatments on whoever was available, evaluated based on clinical impression, and published results that matched their hopes. Death rates were high, progress was slow, and the confidence of physicians far outpaced their accuracy. Then we invented a workaround. You don't choose who gets the treatment, you randomize. You don't rely on memory, you blind the researcher. You don't trust anecdotes, you count the bodies. Double-blind studies are an admission of weakness. They say, I cannot trust myself to observe fairly, so I will remove myself from the equation entirely. That is not a failure of ego. That is the most sophisticated act of humility humans have ever achieved. And it works. It's why we have vaccines, antidepressants, evidence-based surgery. Not because scientists are smarter, because they built systems that compensate for the fact that they aren't. But you don't have a lab. You have a phone. You have a group chat. You have a dinner table. How do you bias-proof that? First, name it. Cognitive biases are like stage fright. They shrink the moment you acknowledge them out loud. When you catch yourself thinking, I knew that was going to happen, you're looking at hindsight bias. When you feel the price tag anchoring your perception of value, you're looking at anchoring bias. When you assume everyone on the other side of the aisle is stupid or evil, you're looking at the fundamental attribution error. Naming breaks the spell. Second, seek out the people who disagree with you. Not to argue, to listen. Bias thrives in isolation. It calcifies in echo chambers. If everyone you follow, read, and love votes the same way, prays the same way, consumes the same media, you are not informed. You are curated. Diversity isn't a social goal. It's an epistemic one. Third, practice the muscle of being wrong. Cognitive flexibility is not about having an open mind. It's about having a mind that can change shape. It's saying, I believed that for 20 years, but I just saw new evidence. And now, I believe this. We treat changing your mind as weakness. In reality, it is the only reliable signal of intellectual integrity. Look, I'm not immune. Last year, I argued with a friend for 40 minutes about the correct way to load a dishwasher. I had data, I had logic, I had diagrams. And then she pointed out that my optimal loading pattern required pre-rinsing every plate, which wastes more water than the inefficiency of her method. I was wrong, and it cost me nothing to admit it, except the 40 minutes I spent defending an ego I didn't need. We are all, always, one piece of evidence away from being wrong. That's not humiliation. That's liberation. So here is what I want you to carry forward. Cognitive bias is not a character defect. It is a legacy system. Your brain was built for savannas, not search engines. For tribes, not Twitter. For immediate threats, not systemic risks. The shortcuts kept your ancestors alive, but they won't help you navigate climate models, vaccine efficacy studies, or economic forecasts. For those, you need a second system, a slower system, a system that doubts itself on purpose. That system exists. We built it together, over centuries. We call it science, but it's not just for people in white coats. It's a way of walking through the world. It's asking, how do I know this? And actually waiting for an answer. It's admitting that your first instinct is often wrong. It's trusting process over intuition, even when intuition screams louder. Certainty is a feeling, not a fact. If this channel helps you build that muscle in a little, then it's doing its job. Because the world doesn't need more people who are sure. It needs more people who are curious. More people who can say, I don't know, and mean it as a beginning and end. If this perspective resonated with you, hit like. It tells the algorithm that someone out here still cares about thinking clearly. And if you want to keep questioning the stories your brain tells you, consider subscribing to Winds of Thought. We release new reflections every 2 weeks. Next time, why your brain prefers a good story over a true one, and what to do about it. See you then.